which we're gathered here today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay our respects to elders past and present. Aboriginal people have thrived across Australia for some 60,000 years, and they remind us of our responsibility to care for the land and future generations in exchange for the privilege of belonging to this great country. DEA members aim to use our scientific and medical skills to educate governments and industry, the public and our colleagues about the risks to human health from damage to the natural environment. The DEA is grateful for the chance to speak here today because we recognise that coal seam gas and other unconventional gas mining pose significant risks to health and are genuine community concerns. Over the next few minutes, we would like to highlight some major risks and concerns. Before we begin, however, we need to point out that many of the scientific methods needed to correctly evaluate the health and well-being risks of any development have not been applied to the coal seam gas industry in Australia. There is a rapidly growing body of research suggesting that unconventional gas mining has the potential to negatively impact upon human health and well-being. Worryingly, although the coal seam gas development is expanding rapidly across Australia, there is little independent scientific evidence that it is safe for human health and the environment. Indeed, observers have labelled CSG as an uncontrolled health experiment on an enormous scale. I ask, why should Australians be subjected to this health experiment in the age of evidence-based medicine? What are the risks we're all facing? Well, the main health risks from CSG relate to the four basic building blocks of good health: water and food security, air quality, strong and resilient mental health and community well-being, and climate stability. Firstly, let's look at water and food security. We are concerned by the potential for CSG to contaminate and deplete our valuable water resources in our water-scarce land. Sophie, can you tell us why?
Well, because the coal seam gas industry uses chemicals introduced into the environment through hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking, we really don't know enough about the type and concentration of the chemicals used. But we do know that some of these chemicals, in a sufficient dosage, have the potential to affect our organ systems such as the kidneys, the lungs, the liver and our skin. And even in very small doses, some may be able to disrupt the balance of hormonal pathways. Coal seam gas companies infer the safety of their products due to the fact that some are in household items. But just because we have antifreeze in our cupboard doesn't mean it's safe to drink. In fact, only 4 of the chemicals used in fracking have been fully assessed by our chemical regulator. None have been assessed for use in fracking. There's no mandatory disclosure in New South Wales of the chemicals they use in drilling and fracking. Chemical substances, salts, and radioactive compounds can also be brought to the surface in the process. The processes of monitoring of water contaminants in gas fields is inadequate to be able to know if they are a risk to people's health. If people living near gas wells complain to their GPs about certain symptoms, we don't have enough information about what they are exposed to give them the answers that they need. This is already starting to be a problem in the gas field areas in Queensland. We're also concerned by the thousands of litres of highly saline and potentially contaminated water produced by coal seam gas mining. The vast quantities of salt produced is of great concern because the industry does not have any solution for disposal of this waste, and our country already suffers from the problem of salinity. I'm sorry there's so much echo. There have been accidents releasing coal seam gas-produced water and its contaminants into the surrounding environment. These have occurred in Colorado in the USA, Germany, and in our own Pilliga Forest in New South Wales. In Pilliga, the spills amounting to 10,000 litres of produced water were not initially reported, despite an obligation on the company to do so. Heavy metals, such as arsenic, lead and chromium, were subsequently reported figure. The enormous quantities of water required for this industry detracts from our future capacity to use water to meet our basic needs on this arid continent. It's predicted that the coal seam gas industry will extract 7,500 gigalitres of water to groundwater systems. That's 15 city harbours worth of water over the next 25 years. This poses a substantial risk to sustainable water management. Additionally, this fracking may pose both structural damage and altered water flows in our aquifers. It can jeopardise our long-term water supply. Our food security obviously depends on accessible and clean fresh water for agriculture, as well as healthy soil. If the chemicals from coal seam gas activity migrate into the groundwater, or are left in irrigation water, these could contaminate the food crops for us and for the animals that we eat.
Now onto the air we breathe. Air pollution in gas fields, here and overseas, is being increasingly documented. There are particular concerns about the health effects of volatile organic compounds, such as the carcinogen benzene, and the production of ground-level ozone created through chemical reactions from other compounds. Ozone inflames the lungs and causes respiratory symptoms, and particularly affects people with asthma. There is some evidence that both cancer and non-cancer risks to health are increased for residents living close to unconventional gas wells due to air pollution. The third area that DEA is concerned about is deterioration in the mental health and well-being of people living near CSG operations. Mental disorders are the leading cause of disability in Australia, with 3.2 million Australians affected by disorders such as depression and anxiety. Chronic emotional distress is a real and serious risk to our health, just like the physical concerns we've just talked about. People in communities affected by CSG may suffer anger, anxiety, and powerlessness. Even in the early stages of CSG development, communities that have been impacted by proposals, explorations, development, and expansions have spoken out about their distressing experiences. Many of these are consistent with the government's understanding of risks to mental health, yet there has been little research on the mental health impacts of coal seam gas on individuals and communities to date. We would like to close with some words about climate change. We are already seeing predicted trends in extreme weather in relation to climate change. And we know that climate change will have increasingly negative impacts on our health. Climate change has been called the greatest threat to global health of this century by the World Health Organization and leading medical journals. Rising greenhouse gas emissions from human activity are warming the planet. This is beyond reasonable doubt. Unconventional gas is a fossil fuel and is contributing to climate change, when what we need is a switch to renewable energy if we are going to have any chance of restricting climate change. Coal seam gas is therefore also a health risk because it is a risk to our climate.